Rona is a champion of the inner child. She calls herself a play instigator and loves helping corporations improve their culture by guiding employees to ignite ideas and explode productivity, and is a leading expert in purposeful and attuned play for improving engagement and motivation. She is also the co-founder and CEO of Playful Mind Project. As an expert, she's been a guest on TV and radio shows from San Francisco to New York. Her articles have been featured in Corporate Wellness Magazine, Town and Country Magazine, New York's Peerless Magazine, and more. Please welcome Rona Lewis.
Welcome to You Want It When? I'm your presenter, Rona Lewis. I am the co-founder of Playful Mind Project, and today we're going to be chatting about what it takes to really get the most innovation from hybrid and remote teams, and trust me, from your in-house teams as well. Your role in human resources is making sure that the C-suite achieves what they want. And what do they want? They really want innovation, especially to be successful in today's highly competitive global market. The way to get that higher innovation is through psychological safety. HR's responsibility, as I'm sure you know, is aligning their people with the objectives of the organization. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Organizations want innovation. And not just Forbes, but survey after survey has shown that CEOs are struggling for that innovation from their people. And they want it now. And innovation can only exist in an organization where there's psychological safety. Now, even though this program is about psychological safety, there's an underlying element that goes along with it. And that is a playful mindset. And these two things alone aren't going to bring the innovation that executives want. There's an entire process that these elements fit with that I'm going to share with you today. Now, my partner Jeffrey and I in our podcast talk about this kind of stuff all the time because so many companies don't have it. And if you've been struggling getting support for programs on psychological safety, it's because the executive team just doesn't know the steps that I'm going to share with you in a couple of minutes. A playful mindset is the most important element of the process linking psychological safety and innovation. And it's this link that leads to profitability. I want to share a quick story. It's about my first job in the media sales industry. Now, I was hired by the owner of the organization, and I had known him for a while, and he knew what I could do in the sales arena. However, I was reporting to the VP of sales. Let's call her Karen, just because. And if anyone out there is named Karen, I'm really sorry. I'm sure you get this kind of stuff all the time. Now, Karen did not want me on her team. The owner wanted innovation and new blood and all that kind of stuff, a new way of looking at issues. That's why he hired me. Karen fought me tooth and nail on everything. And I was miserable. So basically, I had the choice of, I guess they call it quiet quitting now, just going in and following orders, keeping my head down, or of leaving and quitting. And, well, I'm not someone who can keep quiet, so I left. And unfortunately, this type of drama goes on all the time in organizations, even now. And this is the type of thing that human resources needs to oversee. Here's the thing. Karen wasn't a bad person. Karen was afraid. And she was afraid because she either didn't have innovative ideas or she was afraid to share them. You can't ask for innovative ideas if the company itself isn't innovative, and especially if they expect immediate turnaround. To have a culture of innovation, you have to begin with those managers and leaders. It's a trickle down thing. And they have to instill that psychological safety in the culture. And that's basically what starts the whole process. See, you hire innovative, creative-minded people. And if you do that, and no one else in the organization understands the role of innovation and the role of making innovation happen, it's not going to occur at all. It'll be killed by managers. It'll be killed by supervisors. And the very people the CEOs are counting on to support this just aren't. This is why you have to have a process. And that's why I'm sharing this whole thing with you today. Innovation just doesn't come out of thin air. It just doesn't happen. It's part of a process. And one of the biggest mistakes many human resource leaders do is just offer a 1-hour class or a 2-day class on innovation. And, I get it. I teach this stuff. I think offering this is great, except you can't expect people to go from 0 to 60 in 2 days. They're not going to become experts. And the secret is that the first step is not innovation. Before you even think about innovation, you have to teach them creativity. Creativity leads to innovation, and both of these programs will not work if you don't have psychological safety, especially for remote and hybrid workers. These people often feel siloed. They can't just go over and chat with their teammates easily, share ideas, and that makes them nervous. They can feel alone. They'll forget about it. They'll second guess themselves, and that feeling of safety goes by the wayside. So you, as HR professionals, need to pay attention and notice how these people are reacting and be aware of how much input they're giving and if they're feeling included. And if they're not, the question becomes, how do you get psychological safety started and continue it well? Luckily, I'll tell you. This is where the element of play comes in. Do you remember what it was like when you were a kid? I mean, 7, 8, 9 years old, before puberty and hormonal hell crept in. We just wanted to have fun. We weren't judging what anyone was wearing, what color their skin was, what brand their shoes were. We felt free. We could do anything. We had great ideas. And that's where we need to be now. We didn't have all these rules to follow or fear that we weren't following them well. So we need that childlike mindset in our heads. We want that element introduced and fostered within the organization. And that's whether your people are in-house or remote. It's that mindset that is going to foster and create that psychological safety. And you can't just do this with one class in creativity and one class in innovation and expect, boom, everyone to get it immediately. First of all, everyone's personality is different. And you have to plan for that, making sure that everyone, like I said, feels included, involved in one way or another. It has to be built into the culture, and it requires a plan or a process. And while the formula actually is pretty simple, beginning with a program of creativity where we can then focus, working at the same time, fostering that psychological safe space is key. And the way we get them to practice this includes 2 subsets of play: purposeful and attuned. Now, this is something you're probably not hearing anywhere else because the work in and research on all of this is really just beginning in earnest. This really parallels the popularity of storytelling. I don't know if you know this. 15, 20 years ago, storytelling, no one did it. It was considered a soft skill, a time waster. Basically, it had no business in business. Now, total 180. Everyone's talking about the importance of storytelling. CEOs are working on their storytelling skills, bringing people into the worlds they create for whatever issues that they're going through. One of my partner's favorite stories is about Richard Anderson. He's the CEO of Delta Airlines. And he was able to successfully merge Northwest and Delta Airlines despite their incredibly different cultures. And he did this with stories promoting psychological safety while feeding the playful mindsets of all the employees. So, okay, now you have this creativity session with the focus of building psychological safety as well as that creativity. Before we go on, I want to point out something really important. There's a difference between creativity and innovation. Creativity itself is coming up with something when there was nothing there in the first place. It's when you brainstorm the right way, because there's different ways to do it, and you really have to know how to bring out those pie in the sky, impractical, wacky, divergent thinking ideas, and then riffing on them. And it can be super fun as long as you have that psychological safety. If not, it becomes forced fun, which basically is a disaster in the making. Again, it's that element of play that helps them feel safe. And once you've been working with that for a little while, then innovation is the next step. Think about your employees right now. Do your people have a playful mindset? The most important element for innovation is also play, because play, again, is part of that psychological safety, and creating that culture and adding it through that innovative process is key for maximizing growth and profitability for the company. And in short, innovation and innovative thinking is taking all those wacky creative ideas and using convergent thinking and honing it down to the ideas that are different and new and the closest thing to perfect, the closest match that you can find to help solve those issues or problems. Now, Elon Musk is a fantastic example of a leader prompting this kind of psychological safety. And you know what? There's all kinds of people have all kinds of opinions about Elon Musk. And in this case, he's a genius. He's a great communicator and talks about the most important element of innovation, which is failure. This is why play is needed for innovative thinking and psychological safety. You have to get people used to failure and the fact that failure is really okay. With a playful mindset, failure is taken as a really good thing, especially in something like improv, which is another form of play. In improv, you feature failure. Failure teaches us what's needed to succeed. And Elon made it okay for them to fail. One of his most famous tweets is, if things aren't failing, you're not innovating enough. And when his Falcon rocket failed, when it landed, basically, I think it was like 2016, one of the legs didn't deploy, so it basically fell over and broke. And he tweeted, well, at least the pieces are bigger this time. How brilliant is that? It's a great way to keep those innovative fires burning in his employees. And if you stop to think about it, innovation and creativity can't happen without failure, right? And this goes back to my story about Karen and what she didn't understand. She wasn't just afraid of me or what I was bringing to the table, and she wasn't afraid of ideas that were coming out. She was afraid of failure because she did not understand that innovative mindset and the fact that you have to have that culture of innovation throughout everyone's mindset and throughout the company in order to come up with ideas that can really change the whole media sales business, which unfortunately they didn't do. And most times it's HR's role, walking people step by step when they first come in, that spawns that innovative company while keeping that feeling of safety throughout the whole process. This is how you get your C-suite buying into your programs. You'll need approval by the C-suite and the funding for it. And your success with these programs, by them getting buy-in first for that psychological safety, will then allow you more success with all your other programs, whether they be finance or emotional intelligence. This slide lays out the basics of how your program should grow. You guys didn't think I was going to eventually say that, did you? Well, I am. I'm giving you my big secret. You have to start with all your employees embracing that playful mindset. And again, it's not going to happen all at once. You have to allow for fun and failure and for people to kind of let it sink into their heads. And this is all going to increase trust, vulnerability, and authenticity. And this leads to a culture where psychological safety is valued and practiced. And once your people feel those warm fuzzies, the creative process can begin in earnest. And this divergent, wild idea process is really the place where your people will utilize that playful mindset. Since they already have that psychological safety net, they're more than willing to throw out ideas, and being comfortable and knowing their managers and leaders have their back, you're going to get some awesome ideas to work from. You know, a really great company that embraces all of this is Ben & Jerry's. I don't know if you guys know this. Ben & Jerry's allows everyone to experiment with different flavors and different flavor combinations. And you know what? They have come up. Ice cream is like one of my big treats for myself. It's so anyway, if I have anything in my freezer, it's a little pint of ice cream. And most times, Ben & Jerry's discovered ice creams are great sellers. However, there are those times then when it just doesn't make it, or it sells for a couple of years, and then they have to put it to bed because it's not worth it. They embrace that failure emotionally and physically. By that, I mean they have an actual ice cream graveyard on the Ben & Jerry's campus. They make these headstones for deceased flavors, and they write little poems on them. There's one that's called Bovinity Divinity, and this was around from 1998 to 2001. It was milk chocolate ice cream and white fudge cows, and swirled with white chocolate ice cream and dark fudge cows. I don't know about you, I think that sounds really good. And the poem goes like this: where do all the cows go when heaven gives the word? The flavor kicked the bucket when angels took the herd. How playful is that? By keeping an open mind and featuring failure in a playful way, psychological safety is shown as a basic part of their whole entire culture. And that creative thinking now leads to more innovation. They kept it going as their employees felt safe enough to keep working on new things. And any employee from any company, once they get that safe feeling, will feel comfortable enough to start talking about why something will work, or maybe they'll play devil's advocate and say, you know what, I don't know if it will work. And this is another tip, a lot of brainstorming sessions, people say, oh, we don't want to do that, we just want to keep it positive. Sometimes devil's advocate is okay. And you have to really know how to work these brainstorming sessions well to keep that psychological safety and fear out of it. Once this happens, it helps then figure out which way is the best way for the company to succeed with these new ideas using that convergent idea process. And that for the company means more profit. And this is the golden zone for CEOs. Innovation that leads to profit makes the C-suite happy. So if you look at the big picture, you have your employees feeling great because they have a playful mindset and they don't mind sharing ideas because they feel safe. And you go all the way up to the CEOs. They feel great. It's a win-win, win-win-win. Yay, everyone's happy. And isn't that what you want? The human resource role for achieving an innovative company is, like I said at the beginning, serving the CEO's objectives or serving the board's objectives, right? And hopefully this process will get you there. Now, before we leave, I want to share 2 tips with you. One, you should avoid at all costs. And the other, you want to pay extra attention to once you start utilizing play for your psychologically safe culture. Now, the first one I touched on earlier, and it's called forced fun. Now, you don't want to rush into play and be one of those human resource professionals who, as I say, throw a bunch of game spaghetti at the wall, hoping something's going to resonate with your employees. Purposeful and attuned play takes a little time and needs baby steps to get everyone comfortable. See, sometimes structured and enforced fun is the exact opposite of an employee's idea of a good time. Instead, you want to create opportunities and connect on the human side and just that level of humanity. And that's called attuned play. And working with a consultant for the purposeful part, which is finding the right activity at the right time for the right reason, will help you towards promoting that trust and authenticity that allows for better creative ideas. Now, the second thing that you should do is pay attention to body language. Now, it's a little different with in-person versus remote employees. However, you'll be surprised at how much you can find out just by seeing somebody from the shoulders up, kind of like what you're seeing me right now. There's micro expressions, how they use their hands, where they are in the frame. Are they looking forward? Are moving forward? Are they leaning back? Do they have their hands in front of their face? All these things show how they're feeling, what they're thinking, even when they believe they're hiding thoughts from you. Having a body language expert is going to help you with this. It will speed up the process of finding where your employees aren't happy and thriving, or why they're not responding or feeling connected. This is how you divine forced fun is happening, so you can switch that up quickly. And of course, there are other ways of doing that kind of litmus test for your employees' psychological safety. These are just 2 ways. Now, look, if none of this applies to you and you're listening to me just because you want to see what I had to say, fantastic. Your company isn't having issues with remote workers. You're not being less innovative or cost-cutting or don't have competitors and you're not worried. Awesome. I mean, look, my old company lasted a whole 5 years after I left, which, in the scheme of things is not very long because they weren't innovative. And a good human resources team could have saved that organization by, being proactive and dealing with the real issue, which wasn't the VP, it wasn't Karen. The issue wasn't that they hadn't invested in the organization. They hadn't invested correctly in the organization. They didn't have that psychological safety, and they didn't realize the role in helping that organization be innovative and stay up with the times. So hopefully you are in an industry that has to be innovative to stay relevant. And knowing what you know now, you can be a hero and apply the lessons and some of the things that I learned that you learned here today. So all in all, I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. And thank you for playing. I'm Rona Lewis. Get out there and go play safely. We'll see you later.